Well, I felt the call of God on my life when I was 15 years old, and my first preaching outside my home church was a little community church.
Brushy Creek, right?
Brushy Creek was the name of it, Brushy Creek Community Church. And they hadn't had a pastor for 2 years, and I went to school with a lot of the kids who were in that area, and so they went home and told their parents that I was a preacher, and their parents said, well, have him come preach for us. So I went out there and preached one Sunday, and the fellow who was sort of in charge of it just got up and he said, how many of you, after I'd preached, he said, how many of you would like for this boy to be our pastor? Well, they all raised their hands, so what choice they had? They hadn't had anybody for 2 years. So I actually pastored that church for a school term, and then when they said they wanted me to be the pastor, I stood up and said, well, I'll be your pastor till school's out. When school's out, I'm going to be an evangelist. I almost looked around to see who said that, because I hardly knew what an evangelist was, but I knew that's what God was calling me to do. Got an opportunity to start preaching revivals, and that's what I did. And so I traveled 6 years single, but traveling 3 years full time, I ended up going to Tarkio, Missouri, Rebecca's home church, and preached a revival.
Good day for me. I said, yes, Lloyd, I'll go. I mean, Lord.
Her brother is, Rebecca has a brother that's a year younger than. He came up and sat down by me and began to visit with me and wanted to know, are you single? And I said, oh yes. Then he said, well, do you have a girlfriend? I said, no, I don't have a girlfriend. I said, do you? And he said, no, I don't. But he said, there's one thing about it, there's no pretty girls in this church. And about that time, Rebecca walked by. And I said to him, well, now there goes a mighty pretty girl. And his response was, well, that's my sister. And I thought, well, maybe she's your sister, but she's a pretty girl anyway. And so we kept in contact, and most of our courting over the next 3.5 years was by letters, and 3.5 years later then we were married. Yes. We spent 6 years traveling where we didn't even have a home. And I, being raised on a farm, always loved anything to do with farm life, and Rebecca also raised on the farm. And we never particularly went searching for a piece of property, but we just received a phone call that a farm in northwest Missouri was up for sale, and the price of farmland was way down. So Rebecca and I talked about it, and we decided that it would be a good investment to buy some land. They don't make more land. And so we purchased it, and just got it pretty well paid for, didn't we? And after getting that piece of land paid for, well, the neighbor came to me and he said, now I'm going to sell my farm. I'm going to give you first chance to buy it. We bought it, and then we bought 160, and by now we have a sizable piece of land, I think 720 acres, wasn't it, that we've been able to buy, simply because the Lord had just caused people to come to us and want to sell to us. We were not necessarily looking for it. We were pastoring the church, and we were thinking about retiring. And we got a phone call from a fellow who wanted to buy our farm that we had in northwest Missouri. Had a tremendous profit, and we just thought that maybe this is God's direction. We didn't ask for the land. We didn't hunt for it to buy it, and now we're not hunting for a buyer, but they're knocking on our door. So we decided to that we should pursue that. And in the meantime, we had gotten involved with AG Financial in not only our 403B accounts, but in estate planning, and we're familiar with what AG Financial Solutions was doing and what a blessing they were, because I had served on the General Counsel Finance Committee for several years. I actually was the only pastor on that committee for the General Counsel Finances, and as a result of that I understood what AG Financial Solutions was all about and how they were such a blessing to the Assemblies of God. And then we learned about charitable trust. And so when we had a buyer for the land and realized that there was going to be a sizable tax bill if we didn't do something, we wanted to be good stewards with what God had blessed us with and had given to us, just simply because we had been faithful. We felt like we ought to continue to be faithful and honor God. And so that's when we got serious about doing something with AG Financial Solutions.
We realize everything we have is blessings of the Lord. And
we were not smart enough to put those farms together.
you were.
And it was just the blessing and direction of the Lord on our lives that caused that to happen. Mm-hmm. And so we were very pleased to learn about a charitable trust and what could be done with our money in there, and then it would also give us a lifetime income.
And benefit the kingdom of God, we felt like.
Because that's exactly what we wanted to do more than anything, because everything we have comes as a blessing from God.